All right, we have folks trickling in. We're going to give it a couple more minutes before we begin, everyone. So feel free to settle in, get cozy. We have you for about an hour, so hopefully you're ready. Make sure to grab any sort of beverages that you might need. If it's the morning for you, feel free to grab that coffee. If it's the evening, maybe a tea or some water. Stay hydrated. And, as others jump in, also feel free to share in the chat where you're joining from. We tend to have a worldwide audience here. You can also share uh, what your role is. We usually have a bunch of people in content, SEO, um, growth marketing, agency folks, in-house folks, founders, all of that. So, all right, we have, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. Is it Rajan from
Reagan.
India? Reagan?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Hi, Reagan.
Hi.
So sorry, Reagan. Calling in from Indianapolis, Indiana. Lashay's biggest fan, head of marketing, is your
Yes, I
role.
can
Awesome.
confirm.
Happy to have you here. All right. Josh throwing up the coffee emoji. Hopefully your morning is treating you well.
Am I the only
And
one in here that does not drink coffee? Because I feel like when I
oh,
tell people that, they're like, whoa, like, really?
yeah,
How later today?
they treat you like an alien, right?
Yeah, like, you got to get some of the stuff. I'm like, oh no, I just, not unless I find the right flavor or taste. I just haven't found my flavor of coffee yet. We'll
Are you
see.
more are you more of a tea drinker?
I am, yes,
Okay,
very much
there we go.
the type of person. Yeah.
All right. We have another head of marketing in the house, Josh, calling in from the UK. Obviously a
Hey,
coffee
Josh.
drinker there. Me as well. I am a really big coffee drinker, maybe too much caffeine in the morning sometimes to my detriment.
I'll jump on the bandwagon at some point and I'll be like, how did I ever live without this stuff?
It's a deep rabbit hole consisting of many, many cups the deeper you go. All right, we have Deepak, content marketer, joining in from Chennai. Love it. Welcome, Deepak. All right, we are about to hit 5 minutes past the hour, so we will get started here. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for jumping in. I'm Glenn Bona, Associate Director of Organic Growth at Triple Dart, and your host for today's Slate workshop. Today, we're tackling something I think a lot of you are quietly dealing with right now, the gap between how much AI content your team is maybe producing and how much of it is actually worth shipping, publishing. Every marketing team is using AI now, and if you're not, maybe that um, I'm not I'm not so sure about that, but maybe you have your own advantages with not leveraging AI. But the thing is, almost nobody is taught how to use AI. So what's happening is someone prompts AI, takes the first output or, a couple of variations of that output, and then passes it on to the next person, maybe a human editor. And the AI never had a chance to really do its best work because you weren't really giving it the right amount of context or the right amount of deep context. No customer language, no positioning, no product specifics, and most importantly, no internal documentation, right? Just generic output that sounds like a very category generic sort of uh, top of funnel blog that's definitely not sounding human, right? And the person on the other hand of that draft is quietly rewriting the whole thing to make it a little bit more human, but maybe even further away from your whole brand's positioning. And here's what today is all about. It's more of a setup problem, not a talent problem. And once you fix that setup, the output changes completely. And that's exactly what our guest today, Lashay, is going to show us. Quick housekeeping. Drop your questions in the chat, please. As they come up, we're going to be holding a Q&A at the end. And also, we'll be sharing the recording. So if you're watching this later, welcome. Nice to see you, or nice to have you here. Uh, and yeah, we're going to get into it. Before we get started, I'm going to introduce our guest. Lashay Lewis is the founder of Bofu.ai, a human-led AI-powered consultancy helping B2B SaaS brands turn customer insights into high-intent revenue-generating content. She's worked with companies like Conveyor, Teal, and Sound Thinking, transforming underperforming bottom of the funnel pages into high converting growth assets. She's also a frequent podcast guest and speaker on B2B content strategy. And if you follow her on LinkedIn, like many of us do, you'll know she regularly shares frameworks and breakdowns that the content community actually uses and not just talks about. And what I really appreciate from Lashay's POV is that it sits at the intersection of customer insight, content craft, and AI execution. She's not interested in AI for its own sake. She's interested in what it takes to make AI output actually really good, right? And I think that takes obviously a lot of time to tinker with. So she has a really good perspective. And that's exactly what this session is built around. Lashay, really glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is the first workshop I've done in a while. Everybody, like I've been very deep in the lab trying to figure some stuff out. So all the insights you're getting here today is hot off the press stuff I've just learned. I haven't taught anywhere just yet. So it should be a good one. I'm excited.
Boom. We're super excited for it too, Lachey. Before we get going here, I want to take a moment to introduce Slate, the platform that's supporting this conversation and bringing this workshop series to everybody here. Slate is a content automation platform built for SEO and content teams. There are four things at its core. Number one is track your AI and search visibility. Number two is build agents that run on a schedule. Number three is fix or build content using brand aligned templates. And number four, publish directly to your CMS. No more manual handoffs. That's a thing of the past. You can see at the bottom of this slide some of the teams already running on Slate, companies like Razorpay, Glean, and WeWork. A mix of scale and category, which gives you a sense of the range of use cases the platform handles. And if you have any sort of questions or you want to see what it actually looks like uh, against your own content library, head to slatehq.com to book a demo, and we'll drop a link into that chat now. Oh, our team is already ahead of it. Thank you so much. All right, just a little bit more about this session. I won't take too much more time. So, like I said, every marketing team is using AI now, and almost nobody was taught how. So, this session is more on how to spot those that AI slop before it ships, right? Where your context lives already and how to pull it fast. Number three, how to compress it into AI artifact um, and that extracts from reliably. And then number four, how to make the output product led, which is super important and not just on brand. And then the last bit is the full workflow as well. So strategy first, then the live build. Lashay, the stage is yours. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the sort of workshop style that I get when I'm doing my own type of workshops. So I want to start off with this first and foremost. You are not behind. You're going to feel like you're behind because with the unlimited amount of use cases that AI has, there's always going to be somebody that uses it for a new use case, right? So somebody does this new thing, you feel behind, and I think something that helps with that is distilling down like what's your use case specifically? Like what is the one thing you are trying to do? And it's the same thing I've done with Bofu, right? I just focus on something very, very specific. Speaking of Bofu, I promised in this workshop that I would talk to you about how to spot good Bofu content. So we're just going to jump right into it. So I've worked with enough companies to know that uh, teams are struggling, right? And it's not because it's a weird situation. It's like AI has made us faster, like faster than we ever have been before. But fast is not always a good thing. Sometimes going too fast can spin you out. And the problem that I'm hearing from teams right now is that, okay, our teams are using AI, but either it's fragmented, it's like somebody over here using GPT and somebody over here using Claude. Um, Another problem I'm hearing is that people having to edit AI slop because somebody on their team has clearly went to Claude and says, "Hey, like do this thing for me." And they're taking the first output that Claude gives them and handing it up to you or somebody on the team, and they're having to edit that. Um, and the ability that Claude gives us to create content so quickly, it's just, if you don't have your ducks in a row when you're starting, you will spin out very, very quickly, which is something you don't want to do. So this is why we have to get the foundations right. But what good Bofu content looks like, first of all, is relevant to your persona. Who are you talking to? We're not talking to anybody. Uh, who's the persona that the content is addressing? I believe now persona, first of all, it's always been important, but now it's extra important. Because when we think about like getting cited in LLMs and things like that, we're trying to model the search. And I don't want to get too deep into this part, but we're trying to model the search. In order to accurately model a search, we need to know who the person searching is because different personas will search with different context. So the content being relevant to your persona, highly contextual and explains your product in context of the use case. Again, if we know who the persona is, different personas use your product for different use cases, right? It gets very granular. Um, so having the content be highly contextual, meaning like there are product images, there are examples, there are GIFs, like anything that proves that what you are saying the product can do, it can actually do, explains what your competitors do well. This is a big one, especially with the whole bottom of funnel thing, like the alternatives post, and my company won't let me do best post because of this, that, and the third. Um, I think that's a more layered conversation that we would probably need to have on how to like get leadership to take bottom of funnel very seriously, and understand that competitor post is a part of that, right? But I think you can do it in an ethical way. And I always tell people like, you do not want to talk down on your competitors because what's happening now is AI is are using your competitors to cite you. I've seen it. I see it every time I do bottom of funnel stuff. Anytime I'm typing in a bottom of funnel query, if you don't believe me, go to Perplexity right now and just type in like something random, like what's the best X for Y, and tell me what sources you see Perplexity pulling from, and then come back to me and let me know. So it's good. It's good to maintain a good relationship with them again because AI can and will cite your competitors to verify something that you do. That's also why it's important to make sure you put good information on the internet because other companies that are trying to do something similar to what we're doing is pulling your public information. And if it's not accurate, what they're talking, it's not accurate. So if somebody goes and reads their post and I'm like, oh, this, it's just not accurate information. Goes into detail about your capabilities with live examples. Again, don't just tell me you know how to do something, prove it to me. It's not, we've got this feature that does X, Y, and Z. Prove it to me. Show it to me in a workflow. Demo it to me on the page. Like if it's a 2-minute video, if it's a GIF, it's a product image, whatever it is. And then give me contextual examples of how this works in real life. Like it's sticky that way. You almost need to think about this as like a storytelling mechanism, right? And I'll piece it apart in a bit, but that's how I kind of want you to think about it. Like we're telling a story here. It includes real prospect pain points. I can't tell you how many times I see people write bottom of funnel content and they're like, in the landscape of it in today's current age, and good God, like if it includes that, start over immediately, right? Like bottom of funnel content is it's tricky because people try to treat it like middle and top of funnel, where they're trying to start fluffy, but with bottom of funnel, the intent is so high, you need to be hitting the pain points immediately as soon as the people hit the page, right? As soon as that person hits the page. It intentionally connects pains, benefits, and capabilities. You solve this pain, this is the benefit you get from it. Here's the feature and the capability that powers that, right? And we're bridging that together in a single piece. And most importantly, it prioritizes customer insights over search engines, right? So the reason I love this whole LLM thing that's going on right now is because it's forcing us to look within and say, okay, what is our audience actually searching? Because LLMs do not work like SEO. You do need good SEO a lot of time to show up in an LLM, but those are two different surfaces, you know? Um, so this is what makes good BOFU content. If you look at so if you go audit your bottom of funnel content and it does not have these things, maybe go back and recheck it kind of against what I'm teaching you here today, and then think about how you could make that deeper. Again, I'm about to go into that, but think about how you can add some of these elements to your content. So there are a lot of people on LinkedIn talking about how many workflows they've built and look at this cool, 30-step process and it looks complicated and confusing. And it is complicated and confusing, but we don't get anywhere with complicated and confusing. So I tried to distill this down the best way that I know how, and it's how I've been working with my clients as well. So the first thing we do is we build a knowledge base first and foremost. I understand this is not as simple as it may seem here. There are probably scattered collateral all around Google Docs, HubSpot, intercom, whatever you use as a knowledge base. I'm sure stuff is probably scattered. If not, this will be easier. You get everything into a centralized knowledge base, right? This is like the messy stuff at the bottom. And then the information from all of that collateral goes into artifacts, right? So if you've dealt with Claude any amount of time, you're familiar with artifacts. It's just sort of like, it's not always a markdown document, but it's sort of like a reference document that you can go back to. And, it's just you have sort of this piece that you were left with after you've ran a flow, right? So this is an artifact. The messy internal docs flow up into the artifact. And then from there, you have the collateral, the blog post, the objection sheets, the whatever it is, right? So when I think about BOFU content, it's really just a mixture of these three things. And the problem is that these, teams don't have these three things put together, right? Sales, customer success, and product, and then marketing. We bring it all together and then push it out in the world. Um, but it's just teams don't have this sort of like overlapping intelligence, right? So sales might be like, which prospects are buying the solution? Customer success may say, who are our largest accounts? Product may ask, what are the capabilities of the product, right? But it's not just the separate teams. You have overlapping questions you have to answer. So between sales and customer success, what's the benefit of the pain point being solved? And then between CS and product, what benefits do the capabilities provide? And then between sales and product, how does the product solve the pain point? Right. So there's a lot of like layers here. And this is why it's so difficult to create bottom of funnel content, is because the closer you get to the bottom, the more specific you have to get. Top of funnel, you shouldn't be fluffy. I have a whole rant on top of funnel, but people tend to get more fluffier at the top of the funnel and they try to bring that to the bottom and it does not work. Right. So just to elaborate on this a little bit deeper, the reason that teams are seeing this type of problem is because you have a siloed communication issue. Sales only talks to sales, marketing only talks to marketing, CS only talks to CS, and product only talks to product. And a lot of orgs are like this. It tends to be bigger orgs that start to become siloed like this. Smaller startups are small enough where everybody still has access to everything. Um, but when it starts to get this way, this is where information gets trapped into each one of these teams. And again, the difficulty with bottom of funnel is that you need information from every single one of these teams in order to make this work. So instead of your org kind of looking like this, it should look something like this. Sales should talk to marketing, marketing should talk to product, product should talk to CS, so on and so forth. That's how you create a flow of information between these teams, right? So if I could visualize this for you, it would look something like this. People tend to start with the content. That is not where you start. You do not start with the content. AI is not a good enough writer to be starting anything from scratch with no context. Context is everything. So when we think about how we want to build this out, we start from the innermost layer, right? Again, depending on how senior you are, you may or may not have control of this, that cross-functional communication piece, but that's the like innermost layer, right? Um, if you don't have cross-functional communication, but you can still get access to the documentation that those teams hold, great. So once we have that, then we start working on the outer layer, which is the consistent documentation, right? So this is kind of like that those artifacts I was talking about, like the information that goes into those artifacts, right? And then we move up one more layer, and that's bottom of funnel. Like that's where we actually write the content. So you see how it's like we're starting and we're expanding outward versus starting here, because if we start here, it's not going to have specificity, nuance, anything you need it to have. Um, so this is how I kind of visualize this when I'm trying to explain to people like this is where you need to start. You need to start in the innermost center and then start to work your way outward. So what does internal documentation even look like? Like, what do I gather? You know, anything, I explain it to people like this. Anything that describes what the product is, what it does, and who it serves is going to be useful here. So ICP documentation, persona information, case studies, sales decks, whatever you have, right? Internally that, and I would say make sure it's accurate because I ran into that problem too, where people have outdated information and things like that. Um, but try to make sure it's accurate to the best of your ability. And then what you can do. So another piece that I kind of added in here was API connections, right? So a live feed of this information being pulled into a tool, which Slate does have the capability to do. So I wanted to pull that in. I don't know about the CS calls and the CS tickets, but I do know there is something upcoming. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this out loud, but they've got some good stuff coming up for sales calls, right? So I wanted to add sort of like these API connection style things too, because there's nothing better for you to have than like first party data. Like it's gold. All right. So that's how I kind of think about that. But now I'm going to take you through like how I think about content creation and publishing, right? So this is the part where I deviate from a lot of other people when it comes to creating this style content. So I create content in a very modular way, right? So think about like Legos, how you can stack them on top of one another, but you can also take them apart and stack them a different way. That's kind of how I think about content. There's a modularity to it, right? So I break it out by pain points, features, benefits, and capabilities, right? These are the main ones that I use when I'm like putting together collateral. And I have an example here, and I could have like included something else too. I'll explain it, but um, I have a demonstration here of a bottom of funnel article that is exactly how I tell you how I told you in the beginning, like it should be written. If you want to check this one out live, just type in Resi Alternatives. This was a ex-client. They should still be ranking there. I don't want to embarrass myself right now. But if you check, they should probably still be there. And the way I break this down is, again, back to that modularity. When you are at the bottom of the funnel, we're not talking about in today's current landscape. We're not talking about, well, typically, none of that, right? Immediately out the gate, we're hitting pain points. So when I was working with Teal, it's like, where do we get these pain points from? Like, where do these, all of this came from internal documentation that the team had, right? And it was funny because at the time of working with them, there was no AI as deep as it is right now. So we were in Notion with all this stuff. right? AI has just made it easier to extract a modulated process, right? So pain points are here, and then I move down to the actual product, right? I'll usually put like a picture of the home page or something of that sort. I'll have a call to action in here as well. And then a feature and capability breakdown, right? So this is feature one with a capability image. So remember, I was telling you before, like, you don't just tell people you do something, you prove it. Um, and the reason I keep going back to people because I want to burn that in your brain, like that is the most important thing. But also, when people are searching in large language models, what happens is they get specific about what they want. The searches are very long and contextual. I'm a this person at this type of company and I need a tool that can X, Y, and Z, right? So because the searches are more rich in context, you need to go deep so LLMs can make the association between what this person is asking for and your product being able to solve that. Also, going back to the first slide, when I talked to you about sequencing, right? Making sure the pains match with the capabilities and match with the benefits, right? So I'm going to show you here. So with this first one, questioning if your resume aligns, struggling to show impact, managing a mess of multiple resumes. Okay. So these are the pain points. What I'm doing down here is taking the reader through a story. And I'm saying, okay, if the first pain point is questioning if your resume aligns, the first feature is step-by-step guidance and AI generation to write custom metric-driven resume bullet points quickly, right? Also notice how the H2 is not a typical H2, where it's like trying to stuff the keyword or include the keyword Resi alternatives because I'm trying to rank for that in the H2. That's not how I do bottom of funnel content. The H2s are actually the features of the product, right? And again, that's kind of like it kind of drives the story of how it should go. But again, even coming down to feature two, identify and optimize the right details of your resume. Boom. This matches struggling to show impact, right? So you see how it's kind of like the person comes in, immediately has their pain points resonated with. Then as they start scrolling, because and I noticed this too when I was in Post Hog, great tool by the way for tracking. When I was in Post Hog, I was looking at some session recordings. People will actually sit and read this content. I've seen session duration for up to 8 minutes on bottom of funnel content is what I've seen. But when I'm looking at the session recording, sometimes people will skim just like this. They'll like, you know, do that, do that. When they're doing that, you want to make sure you hook them with what you have in there, right? And the way you hook them is again, if they read their pain points immediately in the intro, you hook them by tying features and capabilities of the product to the pain points. All right. So that's how I kind of think about it. I do this method, but I do it with AI, right? This is honestly the secret to getting the content extremely deep and detailed, right? Teaching AI kind of how you want it to write. So something I do is called framework-based prompting. Don't let this scare you. We're not gonna, be doing anything super technical. But framework-based prompting is essentially the act of starting with a dynamic framework as your prompt, right? So the prompt isn't necessarily like, hey, create me a blog post around this keyword, and give me a draft. That would be a prompt, right? A regular prompt. I don't prompt my content that way. I have frameworks for every piece of content that I create. And then the internal documentation that AI is pulling from is filling in these sort of modular blocks here. So when we start getting into the nuance, and again, if you are a company that have like multiple personas with multiple products, and it gets crazy, but I think finding the granularity in it and being able to do, and again, I don't know what this is, but I just coined it framework-based prompting because I haven't seen anybody else do it, but this gets me such amazing results when I do this. So I kind of want you to think about that too. Thinking about like when you're teaching AI to write, um, what's more important is the context that it has more so than the prompt. When I was running this sort of workshop and I was showing people the prompts that I put in the back end of the system, right? And then they were so surprised when I was on the front end. I was like, hey, can you just do one, two, and three thing for me? The text is so simple because all the work is done on the back end with the actual frameworks. All right. And I've got one more screenshot of here that just to show you, like, again, when I'm going through this stuff, again, I'm trying to pull things out modularly that would resonate, right? So you can see, like, from the other slide I showed you with all the Bofu elements and the colorful stuff, like, see all these things included here like that? That's kind of how I think about running this. So the use case I'm going to show you today um, is with pain points specifically. So what I've done is I have ran uh, some some of my sales call transcripts. And the thought here is to pull the pain points exactly how I'm showing you here out of my sales call transcripts. And the goal from there is to be able to take, again, that modularity and plug it into different places. Anywhere, any piece of collateral where you would include a pain point about your audience, those are the pains that you plug into that collateral. So let me pull up Slate. I'm going to walk you through what I put together in here and how I kind of think through the flow in real time. And again, once you see everything kind of laid out, I'll explain what we can do with these type of pains and how we can come up with content topics and things of that nature. So let me pull up Slate for you all. Okay, so what I've done in the back end of Slate essentially is to create a sales call customer language analysis, right? And again, this is me taking about 13 or 14 sales calls for a specific service that I have, and it's me trying to parse out the information, right? And trying to specifically, like, parse out the different pain points. So this is not difficult to do, right? It's literally just I'm repeating the same thing over and over per transcript, right? I'm just telling it to parse it in a specific way. I had a framework for how I like my customer language, because it's one of the artifacts that I use, like when I'm creating a strategy. Again, we want things rooted in that customer language. So I have this here, and it's just transcript three, transcript four. It's literally the same prompt for every transcript, right? And so when I pull that up here, it'll format it for me. And you can see, like, I have it separated by who it was, right? The ID, the account, the contact role, the size and stage, the call type, and the date. And the contact role basically, so when we want to discuss, like, who's our ICP, right? I know I talked about pains, but sometimes this stuff happens. We're just gonna do it on the fly. Now that I'm pulling information off of sales calls, not only can I find who my pain is or what the pain that my audience is having, but now I can also identify the persona that comes to me, right? So I'm seeing, like, solo marketers, growth marketers, marketing lead, head of marketing, marketing leader, director of demand gen. So it's like people that own content teams. So if I'm ingesting this with AI and having AI learn this, it starts to learn who my persona is, right? Not just that, but if we have it broken out like this, it can start to separate the persona by, like, what problems they have the most. So for example, and this is just me running consulting for 3 years. Like, if a company does not do at least 1 million a year in annual recurring revenue, I know they're not going to sign on. I just know that, right? So it can sort of group things together for you like that, but I have all of that here. And then further down here, I have the source profiles, right? So account A is a solo marketer and first growth hire at an early stage startup. Account B, a two-person central evergreen content team, right? And then we come down here, we start getting into the language library. So section A, problems. Like, what are the problems that my audience are talking about, right? So they're talking about insufficient time and execution capacity. Teams are stretched. They don't have enough people on the team. Everybody just expects use AI to do it. So it's like that's one of the problems I'm hearing. And again, this Slate is able to, like, extract this out for me so I can see it timestamps, everything I need to know, again, to be able to reference, okay, somebody did say this on a call. And again, I still have it broken out by problems here. Content exists, but it's weak, generic, or does not convert. Fragmented positioning products, SEO, GEO, or bottom of funnel expertise is missing internally. Like, this is what my audience is telling me, right? So there are multiple different things you can do with this, first off. Going back to the modular format that I showed you, if you wanted to pull these panes out, right, and I wanted to do like a competitive one pager, that's like me against whatever competitor, whatever other agency or consultancy that I wanted to go head to head with, I could pull that information out and I could talk about like what I'm good at versus them. And if I wanted to do a bottom of funnel article for BOFU, this is what I would talk about in my article. I would say, if you're looking for, whatever, a content marketing consultancy, you're on a super small team. Your team is delivering AI output, it's garbage. Like you just start to learn and catch these patterns. Um, so once I have all this stuff again, what I do is I've built templates for a lot of this stuff. So I have a template for extracting themes out of here. And also these themes serve as like email subject lines, headers on LinkedIn posts, workshop ideas. Like you can get so much from this, right? So this is the main use case that I wanted to pull out and really show you because I feel like I feel like people don't take the recording the sales calls thing as serious as they should, but it's literally gold. Like I can bake all of this language into my collateral. Like when I'm pushing my services, I just put all of this in to bring in more of the type of people that need the service, right? So I just wanted to walk you through this and kind of give you an idea of like the modular way of how I think about content. And again, I didn't want to overload everyone with like too many frameworks and too much stuff. I just want you to like think differently and kind of conceptualize how you can use AI for nuance versus just for scale, how you can use it to get very specific with what you want to do. Same thing with competitors. Like if you want to run a competitor audit, you set it up, the competitor audit will come in. And if AI is well educated on what it is you do as a company, it can help come up with positioning ideas and things like that. But I'll say this, the thing that I have said to people and I will continue to say to people is that content is no longer king, context is, right? Because you can create as much content as you want. If it lacks substance and context, it's not going to get cited. Even more importantly, it's not going to book you attributable demos, which is what we're all after at the end of the day. Anybody have any questions on any part of this process? Glenn, I don't know if you wanted to move the questions yet, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
pause and kind of see what the sentiment was.
Yeah. Um, I love that you said content is not king anymore. Context is. I'm definitely going to steal that from you because, Gary Vaynerchuk ingrained it in our minds that content is king. And now, yeah, I think
Lachey
we're
is
in,
shaking it up. Get me
yeah,
up there with Gary Vee. I'm shaking it up.
the era of context is here.
Yeah,
Um, But yeah, thank you so much for this session today. It's super valuable.
sure.
I
Yeah.
guess one question that I wanted to start off the QA with is let's say you're working with a startup or you are a founder of a startup, right? And you're
Mhm.
starting from scratch. Maybe you brought on a head of content as, one of your first hires. And so
Mhm.
therefore, you don't really have too much of a sales call library or maybe even competitor battle cards. Maybe you're still working through like your positioning or messaging
Mhm.
documentation, things like that. What is the minimum viable context that you need to gather in order to build or properly prompt AI with, right? I'm trying to think like what is the minimum
Mhm.
set of pieces or documentation to so that you can leverage all of these amazing tools like Slate?
That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked it because rarely do I go into a company and everybody has everything together. It's usually quite the opposite. So I will just, I think maybe the trouble here is if somebody has not a lot of information rather than too much information, because we can distill down too much information. If you do not have enough information internally, I think the first thing I would work on is, I guess there would be some questions I have. First of all, are we recording the sales calls? I'm gonna bug you about that until the end of my days. Like, are you recording the sales calls? Because that's the first taste of what you could deliver to the market. And I'm so passionate about this because I just went through it, right? Like I launched my consultancy in 2023, started from nothing, right? The first thing I did was like take as many calls as possible. And then what started happening is I started hearing the same problems over and over and over. Mind you, this was before all this. This makes that process like way, way quicker, you know? Um, so it's like if you can first of all, see what the company has, see what's there. I would say make sure it's accurate. I think the minimum viable, I would say maybe like three pieces of documentation per, maybe like three pieces of documentation for your ICP or your persona, three pieces for your product, some competitor intel. You can easily go on Perplexity. I have a prompt for this. Maybe you think, Glenn, do you feel like I should like maybe give them the prompt for some of this stuff? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm explaining it, but I am not one to explain and not go through something. So I feel like um maybe we can give them the prompts for this, but it's the same if you wanted to run competitor intel, right? Put in who you think some competitors are. You put the prompt into Perplexity, run some deep research, pull it back. What I like to do is turn it to a markdown and then put it in Claude into my project.
Hmm.
I think the cool thing about Slate is that there is a Claude MCP. So anything I want to do in here that I need to take over there, I can do it, vice versa. So I would say three pieces of documentation on your persona and your ICP, three pieces of documentation on your product, even better if you have some sort of demo, uh, extract the transcript from that demo, and then feed that to AI and kind of get it to lay out the features and the capability of the product, especially if you do not have direct contact with the product team. So I would say like maybe 6 to 10 pieces of information. And again, if you have like literally nothing, uh, I'll work with Glenn to get you all some artifacts. If you have absolutely nothing and you just want to create something from scratch, uh, we'll make that happen.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Along with some of the prompts that you use, maybe when
Sure.
you're doing Perplexity deep research and all of that good stuff. And I like what Diliana added. It's also cumulative. You keep adding, keep refining. Definitely not a set and forget thing, which I feel like it can people can get really lazy with the
Mhm.
whole, you have this AI tool and you're just going to put everything in, but you know, product or companies go through evolutions, right? Messaging does evolve, right?
100%.
So you
Uh,
have to keep updating everything that you feed, even Slate, right? It's not going to evolve for you. Like you have to keep on adding and refining new things inside of it. That way your messaging is always up to date.
I couldn't agree with her more. Especially with startups, like the positioning changes so quick. The product roadmap is like, boom, like you're speeding through, you're adding features and capabilities. The problem, one thing I've heard from teams too is like, damn, like we've produced all this content and it has like features and capabilities in it that we've upgraded or that are different or that we've changed. Like, how do we keep up with all that? So to your point, Diliana, about it being cumulative, 100%. Like this is a refining process. I mean, I don't know how deep some people are here with like evals and things like that, but like really teaching this system. That's really what it's about. Like it's not going to get it perfect, but when you get deep and super specific with it, it starts to learn how to follow some guardrails, and it's not just spitting out anything at you. I find you just have to give it something to work with. AI is only as good as the person that's behind it.
Yeah, 100% the person that's driving it. This one's from Stephanie. Love shaking it up. And yes, would you agree that context is the unique piece that humans bring to AI?
Oh, yeah, of course. Like context and nuance, right? So, like when I'm working with AI, a CMO that coaches me, she said, people try to use AI to circumvent thinking. And that resonated with me so hard because you don't circumvent the thinking. Like AI is just a layer you add on top of what you are already capable of doing. It's not going to come up with something out of nowhere. I mean, it will, but it's not validated. You haven't tested. It's just, it's like you have to tell it what to do. It's literally like a college level student that's like, okay, tell me what to do. It's going to get stuff wrong. You have to like continuously train it and refine it. But I think like even before you train and refine, like getting this information together as the at least the starting point of that training and refinement is critical. Yeah. Is this what's going to put you above everybody else that's like, first of all the agencies that are saying, oh, we scale your content, we're doing 50 pieces a month for you, guarantees they're doing 50 pieces a month for you. The quality is not where it should be. With or without AI, you still need nuance. You need if things are nuanced, you need context, you need like deep specificity. It's like, and AI is making people lazy, straight up. Like it's just, people, and not even just that, but people were already pressured before AI. You have like 10 competing priorities, but now that AI is in the picture, it's like, all right, let me just run this through here, get this to that person, get this to this person, because teams are overloaded. So it's just like it's a multitude of different things. But 100%, yeah, context is that layer that a lot of companies are missing. I didn't get on here to be shady, like I'm not trying to, but there are some companies out there that are telling you they're tracking prompt volume and doing some stuff and they have no context layer to their platform. You can't upload a knowledge base, you can't do anything. Which is one of the reasons I love Slate is because there is a knowledge base built directly into the tool. So anything I need to like upload, I can get it in here. But it's so many tools out there with no knowledge bases that's saying, hey, we know this about your audience. And how do you know what prompts my audience is searching if you don't have access to my sales calls? Like, how do you know? People don't search the same way in LLMs that they do in Google. So how do you really know? You know, I'm off my high horse. All right.
Love it. This isn't a question. This is a comment from Lena. This figures and what brings all these wonderful ingredients Lachey has brought together is clarity, context, and content team up best when one has the clarity to use them the right way. 100%.
100%. Yes. And teams just don't have it. Uh And a lot of the time, it's above our pay grade to try to solve this problem. This is like, and
Mhm.
especially the internal communication problem, like that is a leadership issue. And I always say, like, culture drips from the top down, not the bottom up. So, like, whatever's up here is going to leak down here, right? So we can only do so much, right? So that's why I'm trying to like give people ways around things like with prompts and templates and stuff like that because we only have access to what we have access to. And again, if we're just a content marketer or a strategist or somebody that really can't make moves in the company, we're limited, but we're also still expected to produce leads and sales and attention and all this stuff, but we're not given the proper materials to do so. You got to set your
Mhm.
people up to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, I love how you brought that up because I think I have a question for you. So
Yeah.
let's say there's a marketer, maybe it's even a senior marketer who feels like they've become more or less like a full-time AI copy editor or AI reviewer, right? What's one change that they should make tomorrow to sort of get themselves out of that loop of just being a AI editor or AI reviewer or AI copy editor?
The quickest thing somebody can do, I mean, like maybe this is not a long-term solution, but the quickest thing you can do to help get yourself out of that seat is first of all, create some sort of like editing prompt. Like understand how you edit and create a prompt around that. What you can do is if you have a really good piece of content on your blog, what you can do is take what the person delivered you and put your content side by side and tell AI, can you create me an editing artifact based on the differences between these two pieces, you know? So there are ways around it. I would say maybe have a sort of filter before it gets to you, right? Um, However you edit, whether it's tools like Exa that is amazing for fact checking, like if fact checking is something you have to do to the content, using like these tools with co-work and things like that help tremendously. But the quickest thing I would say is like creating some sort of like AI editing artifact that when people send you stuff, it goes through that, then it comes to you. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Lashay, this was a amazing session. I think everybody is leaving with, the imprint in their mind that context is king. We are in the context era now. And yeah, if your AI is fed nothing, it's just gonna write generic AI slop. But if
Yeah.
it is given the right sort of context about your company, it's gonna, and also about your writing style, and also about your messaging and positioning, is going to sound a lot like you. And also, if you teach it how to edit like you can also remove yourself from that whole copy editor equation as well. Lachey, for anyone who wants to follow your work, explore more about bofu.ai, or just keep the conversation going, what's the best place to connect with you, find you, all of that?
LinkedIn. I think I put out some pretty good stuff. That's to be
I think
determined
so
by other
too.
people. But LinkedIn for sure. Just go to bofu.ai. I put together an extensive bottom of funnel playbook that goes all through this modularity, like how that's set up and everything like that. But again, the same thing I have in there is what I've showed you today. I don't know personally, and this is personally for me. I don't know how satisfied I am today. I don't know. Maybe we may need to do another one of these where I like start from the beginning, take them here, and then show them how we turn kind of like these sections into different collateral, like what it looks like in an email, what it looks like in a Bofu blog, what it looks like as a one pager for sales team. Like, how do we take this and show different pieces of collateral and then work it back to how it plugged in? I think that would probably be good for people.
That'd be huge. Suda, let's book Lachey maybe in a month or two, and we'll get that workshop going.
Yeah, we'll do a full thing this time, everybody. I'm not feeling
Awesome.
satisfied. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, so I have to make it up. So we'll do something.
Awesome. Cool. And we'll, make sure to include all of the links in the follow-up email, along with the recording. And for anyone who wants to explore Slate, whether that's feeding your customer the language, the positioning, implementing, workflows, all of that good stuff, you can book a demo or start a free trial at slatehq.com. We'd love to show you what it looks like against your own content. Lachey, thank you so much. You brought everything today, examples, workflows, and also the cliffhanger. We really appreciate you being here. And everybody else, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you on the next Slate webinar.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.